Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Today, I'm going to share some truly unsettling horror stories, all of which have been experienced by forest rangers. Before we begin, I kindly ask that you give us a like, and if you've had any eerie or frightening experiences, whether involving a stalker or something equally terrifying, we would love to hear your story. Feel free to share it with us. In 2017, I was stationed alone at Fire Tower 42, situated in the Northern Rockies. I was 28 years old and had been working with the Forest Service for 3 years, but this was my first long-term solo assignment. The tower was located approximately 20 miles from the nearest ranger facility, and the closest town was over an hour away, depending on the road conditions. My role was to monitor for fires, observe weather patterns, assess trail conditions, and report any unusual activity. The communications equipment I had access to was a shortwave radio, which was connected to the regional ranger network. The signal strength was mostly good within range, but outside that, I would often hear static. During my nights at the tower, everything was generally uneventful. The occasional sounds of wildlife could be heard, and I would continue with my routine checks, logging weather reports and checking in with dispatch at scheduled intervals. That was until one night in late July at about 2:30 a.m. The radio crackled to life, and I heard a voice coming through faint and distant. The voice introduced itself as Ranger Daniels, requesting immediate assistance and providing coordinates: 47, Quoent Haben 5014, 624. I didn't recognize the name, but I committed the coordinates to memory. The location aligned with Zone C, a restricted area that had been marked unsafe following a massive landslide in 2009. The trails leading into that area had been decommissioned, and the region had been left largely unattended. I immediately responded to the transmission using my assigned call sign and requested a repeat of the message, but I received no further response, just static. When I checked in with dispatch at my 6 a.m. radio check, I relayed the coordinates to them. The dispatcher paused before confirming that Zone C had been unmonitored for years and that no ranger by the name of Daniels had ever been assigned to that area. This struck me as odd, but I brushed it off as a miscommunication. That morning, I decided to investigate. I logged my destination and packed enough gear for a one-day hike. The weather was clear, and I followed my topographic map with care. As I made my way out, I saw signs of past erosion, overgrown trails, and fallen trees along the path. When I reached the coordinates at 3:45 p.m., I found myself at the edge of the 2009 landslide zone. The hillside had collapsed back then, and the damage had never been fully cleared. As I examined the area, I noticed something partially buried under the leaves and debris. Using a stick, I uncovered a metal supply box which appeared old and rusted at the corners. Inside, I found ranger items: a first aid kit, a cracked compass, and a damaged handheld radio. The radio S casing was marked with CH42A in faded black ink, my Tower AS code. The radio had no power, and the battery compartment was rusted. There was also a field map with a single location circled in red marker. The spot matched exactly where I was standing. I placed the items back in the box, recovered it, and began my hike back. There were no tents, no food, no personal belongings. The area had been undisturbed for years. Upon returning to the tower around 10:02 p.m., I logged my findings in the station journal and checked the radio logs. To my surprise, there was no record of the transmission I had heard at 2:30 a.m. that morning. The system only had my message to dispatch logged. Later, I searched old ranger records and found a brief mention of a Ranger Daniels. The note explained that he had gone missing near Zone C during the 2009 landslide, and despite an extensive search, no trace of him was ever found. The search was eventually called off. I thought about reporting the box I found, but there was no conclusive proof it had belonged to Daniels. The box had been there for too long, and with no solid evidence, dispatch wouldn't reopen the case. As the summer ended, another ranger took over my post. Before leaving, I revisited Zone C one last time. The box remained exactly where I had left it. I cleared some brush and marked the location carefully on my map. Years later, the Forest Service installed a small memorial near the landslide zone, dedicated to rangers lost in the line of duty. Ranger Daniel's name was included on that memorial. In July 2021, I was reassigned to Cascade Ridge, a popular stretch of forest land in northern Oregon. My responsibilities involved overseeing day hikers and backpackers, checking permits, monitoring weather stations, and making sure hikers stayed on approved trails. On a Thursday afternoon around 4:30 p.m., a man named Adam Griggs came into the ranger station. He told me that his hiking partner, Claire, had gone missing while hiking the Blue Creek Loop, a 6-mile trail. He explained that they had stopped to rest near a rock ledge, and while he waited, Claire went off to take pictures. She never came back. Adam said he waited for an hour, called her name, then hiked back to the trailhead alone, hoping she had returned on her own. I asked Adam a few questions, and after logging the report, I called in a basic alert to the county's search and rescue team. I also checked the trail register, and that's when I noticed a problem. No one named Claire had signed in for Blue Creek that day. I questioned Adam again, and he claimed they arrived at Ten Hodungday. But the south lot had been closed for fire line clearing since Tuesday. That was my first red flag. I sent a copy of Adam's report to the local search and rescue coordinator, and a team was assembled to cover the area Adam had mentioned, despite the trail being officially closed. The next morning, I joined the search team. We found no fresh tracks or signs of anyone hiking the trail. There were no water bottles, no wrappers, no signs of a recent stop. We continued to expand the search, and midway through the second hour, a volunteer on the ridge radioed in with a sighting, a piece of clothing against the brush about 30 feet below the ridge. When we arrived, we found Claire lying on her side, half covered in dirt and pine needles. She was breathing, but weak, with a swollen left ankle and scratches on her arms and face. She looked dehydrated, but conscious. After she was taken to safety, I stayed behind and checked the area. The path leading to where Claire had fallen suggested she had been trying to escape from something or someone. There were no signs she had been carried or dragged. Once Claire was in the hospital, she gave a statement to the sheriff's office, and her version of events was quite different from Adam's. She explained that Adam wasn't just a hiking partner. They had met through a group hike a couple of months earlier, and after that, he had been repeatedly messaging her, asking to meet alone. She had declined multiple times. Just before the hike, he convinced her to go, promising it would be a peaceful day. But once on the trail, Adam became aggressive, insisting they talk about why she had ignored him. When she tried to leave, he blocked her path, took her phone, and told her to calm down. Claire managed to escape when he turned away, but she fell down the ridge and twisted her ankle. After a search of Adam's vehicle, Claire's phone and water bottle were found in the trunk, along with printed screenshots of their past conversations, with Claire's refusals highlighted. Adam was arrested and charged with unlawful restraint, false reporting, reckless endangerment, and evidence tampering. He pled guilty and was sentenced to time in county jail, along with mandatory treatment. For me, this wasn't the kind of danger I usually expected in the wilderness. It wasn't wildlife, bad weather, or getting lost. It was someone who had planned too much and thought no one would notice. But someone did, and that made all the difference.